Shane Dawson can't be cancelled. And no, that one-year break to Parody Island following his Notes app post about James Charles and the Taking Accountability video isn't being cancelled. People thought Shane was going to be done for after that though, considering the accountability video downplayed the severity and extent regarding the videos he made that involved racism, bestiality, sexualization of children, and his behavior as a whole, followed by the Instagram livestream where he just went fully mask off. Because most people would be donezo on YouTube after all this combined. But Shane Dawson is not one of those people. Shane Dawson came back to YouTube with The Haunting of Shane Dawson, which is a 3-part series that discussed himself as well as the supernatural. And if we're being honest, I'd rather watch BuzzFeed Unsolved than the over an hour-long Sister Scared knockoff of it, which is what the last 2 videos are. And the first part is enough to talk about, given that it basically clues us in on Shane Dawson, his fans, and how he clearly can't get cancelled as much as people think he can be. And in true Killer Doll fashion, I'm covering this months later. So let's not hold off any longer and get into Shane Dawson's return video and why it proves that he can't get cancelled. In summary, The Haunting of Shane Dawson is about, you guessed it, Shane Dawson. The video consists of a tour of his new house in Colorado and is filled with Shane briefly mentioning things about why he was gone for a year, why he moved to Colorado, and what he wants to do with his life, which is make horror movies. As if the movie-making bit went well the first time around.
I feel like I've been very open to every note, every suggestion, everything. I've never yelled at you guys that I don't know. I'm not taking anything out of the movie to please a bunch of out-of-work actors in Pittsburgh who should be lucky to get an audition for a feature. If you guys told me, hey, I think there's a lot of work to it, I'd be like, okay, great, let's do it.
You won't read the notes?
I want to see all the notes.
You said the opposite to me. No, you specifically told me that night, you guys are gonna send me the notes and I'm never gonna read them.
I mean, as a joke.
But it's been a week and you haven't read them either, so I mean,
I don't know where they are.
Sorry to bother you. You're gonna come back in to talk, right? I think you should. You don't want to hear what people say?
No. And of course it touches on how Colorado and his house is haunted. Now the talking bits about why he was gone for so long are in the first half of the video. And truly, the way he goes about this is a big hint as to why Shane Dawson just can't be cancelled. So let's just hop into this little bit of the return video.
I feel like I have so much to say that I don't know where to start.
Well, Shane, you could start by actually addressing why people canceled you by talking about everything that's been brought up regarding the racist depictions of black people, sexual harassment of animals, and sexualization of children that was in your past content. You could also discuss why you went mask off on Tati during the very spontaneous livestream where you flat out gave her shit for talking about her abuse to only bring it back around to yourself.
As a victim of abuse myself,
Oh my God.
Terrified.
You are so manipulative.
Think of facing public.
You're fake crying. You are fake crying. You are fake crying. That is not real. Oh my God. I was molested. I have been, oh my God.
Because that's not something an empath would do, Shane.
So I've learned I'm an empath, right? I'm so manipulative.
Or you could just do what you usually do and do the I'm so quirky and relatable shtick you've been pulling the last few years throughout the entirety of this video. That's totally a great place to take this seemingly serious video to. Now this next part's gonna be a little bit of a rapid fire ordeal, but it's all about the quirky little live, laugh, love-esque sign that Shane has hanging up in his house, which just really hits different with everything in mind.
We say I'm sorry. Yes, we do. Don't worry, I'll get to that. We forgive quickly. How about you get to that?
Hey guys, please forgive me for, as a grown-ass man, sexually harassing animals, asking an underage fan to twerk for me, and reinforcing stereotypes against black people for several years. I'd really appreciate it if you could do that, because if you don't, then you're just a hater. I mean, it's just the deniability for me. Shane, people don't have to forgive you, let alone do it quickly for everything that you've done, because you've never really owned up to everything you've done. You seemingly just pick what you can and can't discuss based off how many excuses you actually have for that certain thing, or how much you can downplay it. Because you downplayed the sexualization by saying in the clip from the podcast that was circulating wasn't even that bad.
So there's a clip that has been going around again. A few years ago is when it came out. And they cut out all the parts where I said, pedophilia is disgusting. And they put it together and it made it seem like I was, talking about how it's normal. So gross. I would never say that.
But if you listen to it in its entirety, it still is. And you opted to talk about a situation regarding a family member, where you say the family member and their parent were cool with it.
Even I saw a vlog clip of me and my cousin who was, I don't know, probably 12 or 13 at the time. And we were, I was doing the birds and the bees talk. Dumb, gross shit. And I remember a few years ago, I reached out to her mom, my aunt, and I was like, I'm so sorry. Oh my God, I can't believe I did this. Like, this is insane. I can't believe I talked to, my cousin like that. And, she was like, oh my God, we know. It's okay. It was funny. Like, we all thought it was funny. Like, that's just how our family is. So I kind of took that as like, okay, well, then I don't need to apologize for it.
Over the copious other things you've done involving minors that the parents haven't been cool with. There's more than that, but that's just the key part that stuck out to me. Tell you what, Shane, I'll think about forgiving you the minute that you actually own up to majority of the things people have called you out for. Now, in true Shane Dawson fashion, he doesn't really know how to go from this little goofy gaffe to a serious topic, so he says this.
You can hate me. If you hate me, honestly, I feel better that way. Because it's like lowering the bar. Do you know what I mean? Because I finally don't really care anymore what other people think about me, except for myself. But I don't really like me either, so we're in a weird place.
Her, oh my God, you really snapped with the tea on this one, hunty. Yes, Queen Slay! Not gonna lie, just doing that has made me want to mentally gag and vomit, so I can't imagine what that just put you through, and I'm very sorry for that. Shane then parrots a very similar statement later in the video.
I feel like people are just gonna hate me no matter what, and I kind of just have to accept it. And then there's gonna be people who appreciate what I do, and then there's gonna be people who...
Are you sure about that?
Shane, just stop. The way you say this just comes across that you think that people hate you or dislike you for no apparent reason, as if the reasons haven't been obvious. I mean, for fuck's sake, these things have been circulating online for how long and made literal headlines? But of course, they're things that you've downplayed, so actually fully addressing them wouldn't be a good thing for you now, would it? Now, the next part is basically Shane sitting down and recalling how he's made peace with the person that he was in his early 20s and how he wouldn't do what he did back then now. He goes further into this by saying that he's made all this growth just to get canceled for things he's done in his past and how he can't control how people react to or feel about him. This same sentiment is later amplified through how he discusses people who dislike or hate him and what he plans to do regarding all of this now.
I'm not going to talk about this anymore because I don't want my whole life to just be me talking about this, which is why I haven't talked about it in the last year and a half. I wasn't ready to, but also I don't want that to just be the thing I'm constantly bringing up. Yeah, I'm not going to run from my past, but I'm also not going to stay in it. Like, I'm not just going to live in there because that I've already come to terms with, and I feel like it would be unhealthy for me to just constantly think about it.
Shane, the only thing unhealthy here is the extent that you went to downplay everything and make excuses for stuff that you haven't even addressed. You are not going to talk about this anymore because you know if you did get into it, you would have to supply specifics. And if you supply specifics, it's a little damning if we're being honest. I really just want to reiterate that I really do think people can change. But to change, you kind of have to own up to everything you've done, and that's something Shane Dawson has yet to do, which at this point isn't a sign of change, but more so that a cycle is repeating itself, which in Shane's case, it already has. Also, not because it's important, but because I think we could use a little bit of a laugh. I think it's kind of funny how he ends on this note.
I guess you don't know that. Things follow me, Chris.
Yeah, Shane, it's the past that you continually downplay and excused following you. It's those kind of ghosts. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about Shane's return video is because by itself, it gives us a little insight as to why Shane Dawson can't get canceled. And that's because Shane Dawson, by his own admission, has not or will never own up to everything he's done.
Because yes, I apologize for a lot of them, but I'm 31, almost 32. Those apologies suck. I'm not going to talk about this anymore.
And that's because he's never needed to. Hold on a minute, this isn't me making an excuse for him, let me explain. He alludes to changing throughout the entirety of his Haunting of Shane Dawson video, but I mean, just as recent as last year, he was dragged into drama with Jeffree Star and Trisha Paytas.
I was just sent voice memos from Shane, his own voice, shit-talking me back from April 2017, 2 months after we filmed his first series.
Granted, this was thanks to Trisha and kept about by Ryland, but nonetheless, everything coming forward about Shane was consistent with the whole not changing mask off shit that Shane displayed in his live stream. And I think that's just the cycle of how events are gonna be until Shane Dawson takes accountability for everything he's done. Now, very quickly, I'm gonna go over what I view as accountability versus what Shane Dawson and tons of other content creators try to do when they get called out for something. Accountability to me is actually acknowledging what you did, making an effort to understand why what you did is bad, and changing with a show of results that you've grown from whatever you've done. That's what accountability is to me. Seems pretty straightforward and all that, and I'm more than willing to give creators a second chance if they follow through with that. The fact of the matter is that most of them do what Shane Dawson does, and that's why we need to talk about it. Shane will acknowledge stuff he's already miserably tried to apologize for doing. His sentiment, not mine.
Because yes, I apologize for a lot of them, but I'm 31, almost 32. Those apologies suck.
Even alluding to other stuff, but not going into it. Saying that he's changed and that he's different from the person that did all these things, but completely ignoring other things as well as the extent and severity of everything he's done. Because I believe if he did go into this sort of detail, there would possibly be a different response. I say possibly because we'll get into that later. And overall, with this form of accountability, we can expect to see Shane Dawson in a similar, if not the exact same situation a couple months from now. An example of that being Shane saying he's tired of drama and wants no part of it while being in the Jeffree and Trisha situation, as previously mentioned several times now. That's not accountability, that's some boss shit.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
And let's face it, Shane, you've never really been accountable for your actions, because if you were, you would address everything people have called you out for, not just select things. And you wouldn't downplay those things or make excuses for them, but that's a little bit too much to ask from you, isn't it? Whereas admitting to the Smith family that you pretending to jerk off over Willow Smith was wrong. Whereas admitting that sexually harassing your animals, who in general can't consent, was disgusting and on some hypnotist Sappho shit. Whereas saying having an underage girl twerk for you and your mom on Omegle was fucking disgusting. To me and some people, public incidents require public apologies. So where are those, Shane? Well, they don't exist, because if they did, you know you'd be admitting some fucked up shit, Shane. Fortunately for Shane, his form of accountability has the same positive result. And that result is why we have to talk about the fans of Shane Dawson. Shane's fans don't care about what he's done because it was a long time ago. People make mistakes. And my personal favorite, he's just changed so much. As if the James Charles stuff wasn't in 2020, and the Trisha and Jeffree stuff wasn't in 2021, and Shane wasn't a grown adult when he made his racist, possibly borderline bestiality-filled, and sexualization of children-based content. Really hate to break it to ya, but there is a difference between actual change and waiting until people have moved on to feign accountability. I also hate to break it to ya, but I do think that there is a difference between my personal mistake of spoof prank calling people when I was in middle school and a grown 20-something-year-old man asking a underage girl to twerk for him on Omegle, amongst, you know, several other things. Regardless of what you show Shane Dawson fans, no matter all the videos you have as proof of these actions, his fans will always see it through his view.
I have made a lot of growth. I'm so sorry. I learned a lot.
At the end of the day, Shane Dawson can't get canceled. And the reasons as to why that is are that he has never truly taken accountability for the actions people have called him out on, as well as the fact that his fans will always be there for him to fall back on when, worst case scenario, he gets called out for his shit and provides another excuse-filled accountability video, followed by another mini-series with a copious amount of problems to it because
why the fuck not?
Everything I've discussed in this video is why I personally choose to not support Shane Dawson. And I'm gonna be honest, I can actually see why my parents didn't want me watching his content when I was younger. You dumb, sweet little child, you had no idea what you were supporting. But despite all this deterring me from watching Shane Dawson's content, it's also the reason why Shane Dawson can't get canceled. But that's gonna do it for this video. Yes, it's finally here. It is weeks late because y'all voted on this ages ago, but here we are. Feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe because I have more content coming your way. I have a very interesting video coming for you next week. You are definitely not going to want to miss this one. And again, feel free to leave a like down below because I have a feeling the Shane Dawson stans aren't going to like this one. They might go a little bit feral over this. But until the next video, I'm going to work on evacuating my family from Colorado. I'll see you guys later. Bye!